Hi everyone, it is Monday again, and you know what that means. It is time for another Neca live session here on LinkedIn, YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Every single Monday we are joining to tell you about some of the exciting announcements, innovations and education sessions that we have coming up at our 100% virtual convention. This will, you have my word, be the biggest convention Neca has ever hosted, and you don't want to miss it. So make sure you go to necaconvention.org as quick as you can and get the dates inside your diary. And it's wonderful to be joined by so many of you on the line. As you know, we like to keep these as interactive as possible. Let's see who we have on the line. We have Usman is joining us all the way from Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much. James is coming in from Indianapolis. We've got Alicia Morin. Alicia, thank you so much for joining us on the line. And Alan Berry is tuning in as well from Atlanta, Georgia. Every one of these lives is driven around you to make sure that you have got the most up-to-date information so we can start to get excited about what will be an unforgettable Neca convention. And what is it that makes it unforgettable? Well, not only the networking, not only the education, not only the world-class trade show, but of course our world-class speakers as well. And today I'm delighted to be joined by a friend of Neca and another one of our world-class speakers. Today we are joined by the CEO of Global Wisdom and Leadership Forum, LLC. It's the one and only Maureen O'Brien. Maureen, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me.
David, great to see you. I'm glad to be here, and I'm really glad to see there's good representation from the Irish in the convention.
Isn't there? Now, Neca is a very Irish convention as it goes anyway, but I'll admit, I'm intimidated by your Irishness, Maureen. I think you might be more Irish than me.
I don't want to say it, but I think that might be true.
I like to joke and tell people, actually, this accent is fake. I'm really from Cleveland, and it was all just a branding decision. But Maureen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. You've been part of the Neca family for many years now. For any of our viewers who haven't attended any of your sessions yet, tell us a little bit about your work.
So the Global Wisdom and Leadership Forum really equips leaders to stand up, stand out, and create real change. And I think in these times, especially, that's necessary.
I think it's so true in this moment. It's so important that we give our people, our society, our stakeholders voices. And I know a big part of your message at Neca this year is going to be around inclusion and creating change and making sure that we have conversations that may be sometimes tough around unconscious bias and the accessibility of our organizations. What will you be covering for our audience this year?
You know, David, those topics can be difficult, but I heard a quote recently that said, if you recognize a problem, you are required to be part of solving it. And I don't think there's anybody on the planet that doesn't recognize that we have a problem right now around inclusion. We are going to talk about diversity, but I don't like to spend a lot of time with the word diversity because I think that can make people's eyes roll in the back of their head because it's a head word. What we really have to talk about is are words like inclusion and equity and belonging, which are heart words. So my job really is to help folks create that 18-inch vertical drop and talk about all of those things. And that will be my intention when we're together.
And I think it's so true that these words, diversity and inclusion, are so high up on the news agenda these days. It can sometimes be really challenging to ask ourselves, how do we actually translate this into something that helps us make sure that our people feel safe and welcome in our organizations and that they can show up and do their best? But you really specialize in making this practical for contractors of every size.
Well, I do because I am a contractor. I also own a construction company, which I started 35 years ago outside of Chicago at the birth of my first son, hence the name O'Brien and Son. So I have lived a lot of this, and it's incredibly critical to have these conversations, which are not easy. But all of this work, David, starts right here. It starts with each of us. Sometimes we try to run tracks and programs and make it external of us, but it simply can't be. It starts with us.
I think it's so true. Everyone has ownership of how they act and react to those positive and negative situations and scenarios that they see inside their organization. And I know that diversity and inclusion have been topics that have come up on many of these lives that we've had. It's hard to believe this is week number 8. I mean, really, at this point, I think they should just give me an office inside Neca. Why on earth am I still
Wait,
in
that didn't
Belfast?
happen yet?
No, not yet. I know. I mean, David Long. Could we get David Long on the phone, please? Immediately. I
think
need an
so.
office in Pennsylvania Avenue.
Right, I have him
But
on speed
diversity.
dial.
Yeah, I think we should both bombard David with texts. But you know, diversity and inclusion is clearly a theme that matters a lot to Neca, not just because it's in the news, but because it's part of who they are. And they're working hard on an initiative that brings that alive and makes it practical. What would you say about the work that Neca are doing?
Yeah, well, here's what I can tell you. First of all, conversations like these don't happen in a moment. This is a movement. It can't be a reaction. It has to be an intention. And I will tell you, a couple of years ago, I was hired by Vanessa Alves to speak at one of the conferences on diversity's effect on the bottom line. And it was one of the first conferences that David Long attended. And David, from the stage, I challenged David Long that if I came back in a year and things were not any different, he would be the one to be held accountable, because that's how it is. It has to start at the top. And frankly, to his credit, he has expanded the conversation and continues to expand the conversation. Again, it can't be one conversation. It has to be a movement. It has to be intentional, and the conversations have to go on. I will tell you also that as I've gotten to know Neca better and gotten to know some of the leaders like Tracy and Pete and Jeff and Marco and Katie and Beth, as you and I talked before, and certainly Vanessa and David, I know that they are committed to driving this movement, not only in the association, but in the industry.
And I think it is the bravery to have these conversations across the industry that allows it and allows all of us to, I guess, take ownership of change and allow it to make a difference. And I know every day you've been working in your own organization to make a difference for the people that you serve. Tell me a little bit more about the Global Wisdom Leadership Forum and how that's been tackling these areas.
Yeah, so we've been invested in this work for 12 years, and the conversations have evolved. But honestly, our job is to provide leaders with information, inspiration, and tools for implementation. It's not enough just to have the conversation. What has to happen is there has to be a call to action where we're actually helping people get something done. And that's what the Global Wisdom and Leadership Forum is invested in.
And I think sometimes just knowing that there's someone that you can call upon for advice around a sensitive area, perhaps because you don't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, but actually that concern shows a certain amount of maturity inside our organizations. And as I look at the great attendance that we have, gosh, we've got such great attendance on this call today. We've got Deborah Hawkins coming in from Arizona. We've got Alan Berry is coming in from Atlanta. We've got Gilbert coming in as well. We've got contractors coming in from all across the world, from Dubai, coming in from Mexico as well. Shelby is tuning in as well. Shelby, thank you so much for joining us. And then, of course, our friends at Milwaukee Tool are here. It would not be a Neca Live or a Neca convention without our friends at Milwaukee and all of our other great partners that make it work. I suppose the big thing, the big change that everyone might be worried about this year, or at least asking questions about, is our movement to virtual. Maureen, and you and I have delivered virtual events for various different clients across the world over the course of the last few years, but we've started to take it really seriously, haven't we? And we know when virtual is done well, it's an incredible experience.
Mm-hmm. It's true. The reality, David, is also this. So first of all, I'm not a speaker first. I'm a CEO and a business strategist first. But I have invested in getting certification and delivering virtually because it is different. But what isn't different is no matter how you're presenting, you have to care about what you're doing. And you have to be able to connect with the people. And there are some mechanics in doing that in terms of, chat and polls and putting people in rooms and different backgrounds and flying monkeys or whatever. But the reality is you got to have content that matters. It's a little bit like I equate it with wanting to provide something that really is sustainable, not like when you have a rice cake for lunch and in 45 minutes you think to yourself, did I even eat lunch? I don't want to be that gal. I want there to actually be something that you can take away today and implement and sustain. That's our intention.
And it's those practical applications that really do move the needle on our performance that make such a difference. And I suppose what I'm so encouraged by this move towards virtual that Neca have invested so heavily in, it allows conversations around diversity and inclusion to be experienced by so many other people in our organization. In the last few years, if you weren't at convention, you couldn't suck up all of the great learning and material. Yeah. Now, a contractor, large or small, can give their entire team access to this game-changing learning and experiential learning that's happening virtually at a really affordable cost. And I suppose that must encourage you as someone who really does keep inclusion at the very center of everything that they do, to make sure that every level of the organization can be part of this learning and conversation.
It's absolutely true. And I'm hoping that you're able to see the passion that I have around these conversations. David, you and I spoke a little bit earlier, and I'm in remission from stage 4 lymphoma. So I know that my life is a miracle. And I also know I don't know how much time I have left. So I don't want to invest in stuff that doesn't matter. I want to invest in conversations that may create change and make a difference in the world while I'm here and while I can.
Maureen, thank you so much for sharing that with our audience, because I know, having spoken to you about this before we came on the air, it's a big part of who you are, and it's important to you that you do make a difference and that you do have a legacy. And I think it gives you an extraordinary perspective on what matters in not only in the workplace, but in our lives at the moment.
It's absolutely true. I think that you and I sort of started the conversation in this way. It starts here. And the things that matter start here. But you don't have to look very far outside of yourself to realize we got to get involved in creating this kind of change. And that's at my core. I have an absolute knowingness about that. I know I'll be held responsible for that. And I can tell you also, David, you talked a little bit about how this can be uncomfortable. And what if I do something and I screw it up? I ask for grace ahead of time because I'm going to screw it up. But the facts are the bigger cost would be not having the conversation at all. And I'm not willing for that cost.
I really agree. And actually, I tend to think an individual who is worried about saying the right thing or the wrong thing is actually already in the right place. They're at least conscious of it. But I think worse still is to avoid it at all costs. But I think we need to, as we move forward, have the bravery. And I suppose I'm really keen to ask you one last question, Maureen. What would you say to a contractor who's kind of on the fence, has maybe not been able to afford to attend the convention in person, or maybe their diary has been too busy, they've never been able to make that leap and say, I can take time out of the shop, away from projects, away from contracts, out of the office? What would you say to them about attending this year's virtual event?
Well, I would say now there's no excuse. There are no reasons left not to attend.
That's a nice bit of Irish aggression there, Maureen. There's no excuse for you to not attend.
And Irish Catholic guilt, if you don't mind. I think you should only participate if you're interested in greater profitability, if you're interested in greater innovation, if you're interested in expanding your reach in your business. Not only is this the right thing to do, but the data shows that it increases all of those things like profitability and innovation and learning, giving yourself the gift of learning. One thing every day is something I think we're all supposed to commit to. And here's the chance at a very, very low cost. So for me, there are no more excuses. register.
Well, absolutely. Register today. Let's go to our audience and hear from a few people. We've got Christy Phillips is coming in from Georgia, and she says, Mo rocks. You've got a fan in Christy. Vanessa is saying, don't miss all the education tracks on D&I. As Mo mentioned, it's a movement that Neca is initiating, so please come and join us. Bob is coming in from Cupertino. Oh, what a beautiful area, Bob. Do you have a guest house you could give me, Bob? I don't want to pay for it. I'm a really friendly guy. I promise I'll keep the place tidy, Bob. Angel is coming in from Titan Power. We've got people from not only across North America, but all across the world as well. Marvin is a groupie here. Between Marvin and Vanessa, if Marvin and Vanessa are not here, I simply don't do the Neca Lives because it's not the same without them. We've even got some coming in from Turkey and Queens in New York. I mean, they're basically the same destination anyway. Maureen, I want to thank you so much for joining us, for taking the time on what I know is a really busy period. I cannot wait to see you at our virtual convention. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you soon, Maureen.
Thank you.
Take care. And for all of you out there, I want to remind you that you really do need to start registering. Get these dates inside your diary now. October 6th through 8th. This will be an extraordinary opportunity for you to invest in yourself as a professional, invest in your business, and invest in your team as well. Log on to necaconvention.org and we will see you there. But first, a little word from Team Neca.
To Neca contractors all across the country,
we got this.
Neca is working with you
and for you,
getting you the information you need.
We got this.
We are all at home for an uncertain amount of time.
It's unprecedented for all of us.
We want to go back.
Back to how it was.
On the job site.
In the office.
Kids at school.
Seeing friends and family.
We will get through this.
We're stronger as a team.
Remember, we have to fight the battle before we can win the war.
We've got this.
We are the innovators.
The creators.
The men and women who bring us light.
Empowering lives and communities.
Powering our nation.
From a single light bulb
to the biggest cities.
We got this.
We're all together in this fight.
Stay smart.
And stay safe.
We got this.
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 To Neca contractors all across the country.
We got this.
Neca is always by your side, so get these dates inside your diary and we will see you there. And don't forget, I'll see you right back here next Monday for another Neca Live.